Hi everybody, my name is Brady and I'm a 19th century American historian, and we are back with another React video, and today we're going to be doing more Hamilton. The song we have today is Yorktown, parentheses, The World Turned Upside Down, which is a real song. I could probably find a high quality recording of it online. I might do so later in the video. I think that would be kind of cool. But I'm not a military historian, and although this happens to follow one of the biggest, if not the biggest battle of the war, it's the decisive battle of the war. Even though this is a battle, I'm not too worried about my lack of military knowledge because Lin-Manuel Miranda doesn't really seem to approach the story that same way. It's very social, it's very personal. I doubt the military stuff is going to be too deep that I'd miss too much of it, so I'm not too worried about that. If I miss something, I miss something. If I don't, I don't. I don't see any reason to dilly or dally, so let's get it started. Hopefully that volume is good. Let's do this.
Monsieur Hamilton.
Monsieur Lafayette.
In command where you belong.
Are you saying no sweat? We're finally on the field. We've had quite a run.
Immigrants, we get the job done.
I like that. The immigrants thing, that's a product of modern political tension, obviously. Lafayette strictly is not an immigrant, but the point is people can come in from other places and do good things for the country. This came out during a very interesting time when it comes to that issue. The immigration issue was on the rise, so this was an interesting point to make. Another thing I like is that Hamilton comes in, he's like, how you say no sweat? And he's kind of poking fun at Lafayette there, because earlier in the musical he's like, how you say anarchy? He's seemingly still learning English, and when you are learning another language, there's a lot of things that don't really make a whole lot of sense. I've tried learning another language. It's hard, especially with things like no sweat. If you were to take that literally, the words don't... It's like, what does that mean? But if you understand culturally what that phrase means, like, it's totally different. You can't just take the words for what they are. You have to understand how that fits in a very specific way about how people talk in a particular culture. Like, no sweat. Oh, you have no sweat? You are not sweating is what you're saying? No, I'm saying no worry. Don't worry. Yeah.
So what happens if we win?
I go back to France. I bring freedom to my people if I'm given the chance.
We'll be with you when you do.
Go, lead your man.
See you on the other side.
Till we meet again.
And we're foreshadowing the French Revolution, which is kind of a sister revolution to the American one, however, so much different. Both revolutions are violent, but there's something so dark about the French Revolution. It went through such a dark period when everybody's heads are being cut off. A lot of people are trying to really force a new revolutionary French culture upon people, while America, it's a little bit more conservative. Afterwards, while some of the loyalists and people who are on the British side do get cracked down upon, a lot of them are forgiven and are allowed back in. That's not as common in France. In France, it was very pure. You had to be really on the side of the revolution. If you weren't loyal to the revolution, you are our enemy. And Hamilton, he's going to be in charge of the government that chooses not to go help in the French Revolution because the French Revolution is getting crazy. Yeah. One thing that I find very interesting, let me just go back and play this line again.
So what happens if we win?
I go back to France. I bring freedom to my people if I'm given the chance.
So Lafayette, he participates in the revolution, kind of. Early on, he's going to have a lot to do with the Declarations of the Rights of Man. That's something that he's going to work, and Thomas Jefferson's actually going to be involved in that. But his overall role in the revolution is very much in sort of the middle, maybe even leaning towards the crown. He's kind of like standing in the middle, holding his arms out between the two sides, and that's not where you want to be in a revolution. You gotta pick a side, and you better hope you pick the right side. And it did not work out for the dude. He ends up being imprisoned for a pretty darn long time. It's not going to work out very well. That's what makes the later stuff in the musical where Hamilton doesn't choose to intervene, and the Federalists in general in Washington choose not to intervene. That's what makes it hit so much differently, because they have a treaty with France. It's like, we'll help you, but we can't help you right now because our economy is new. It's fragile. There's so much that could go wrong from us getting involved in a European conflict. We want to build a little bit of stability here before we mess around in other places. And what else could you do? America really didn't have a lot to choose here. They had their options pretty much laid out for them. Do you face economic ruin and keep your treaty? Or do you distance yourself from this revolution that seems to be really getting out of hand and try to build more stability for when things go down? That's what ends up happening.
We'll be with you when you do.
Go,
No, you won't.
I see you on the other side.
I can't dance.
So much it feels more like a memory. This is where it gets me. I'll not beat the enemy ahead of me. If this is the end of me, at least I have a friend with me. Weapon in my hand, a command, and my man with me.
So Hamilton seems to have everything he wanted. I mean, not everything. There's the theme, like, he'll never be satisfied. I'm sure Hamilton, once he gets a big military position, he's thinking, okay, what's my next big military position? What's my next big government position? He's always thinking about going a little higher, but right now he has and is living what he wanted. And he always had this martyr complex thing, like he wanted to die for something he believed in. And that's kind of beautiful, but it's also hard to understand what he believes the American Revolution is supposed to be, because a lot of people don't really know how this is going to work out. If you're dying for something you believe in, what is it you're believing in right now? Because everybody has like a different vision in their head, and we're going to get a pretty good idea of some of his ideas later on. I think Nonstop goes into where he starts proposing a lot of his ideas for what the world is, for what the new country is going to be. And I guess we'll talk more about that later on. We're only a minute in, so I should probably keep this song going a little bit.
Then I remember my Elias is expecting me. Not only that, my Elias is expecting. We gotta go, gotta get the job done. Gotta start a new nation, gotta meet my son.
Oh, yeah. His wife is pregnant. And weird thing about Eliza, this is kind of a side note here. Miscarriages were very common during the time. So if she's under a lot of pressure right now, and she undoubtedly is, there's probably a lot of concern that something bad could happen, that she could have a miscarriage. If he doesn't come back, who knows how that's going to impact her emotionally. And I'm sure Hamilton probably understands this. But, you know, she ends up having a pretty good record. I think she has one miscarriage. At least one, but she ends up having a ton of kids. Yeah, the take your bullets out of your gun thing. That's a great concept here, because the whole operation requires stealth, and they've got to like take this redoubt or something. I don't know much about this stuff, but they have to really get the jump on these guys. So you don't want some idiot like shooting off their gun, because there's always going to be that idiot who's going to ruin things for everybody, who gets a little too excited, gets a little jumpy, so don't have the bullets in the gun. And I don't know about it in this specific case, but this has been done plenty, and I don't see any reasons why this wouldn't be true.
Experiment begins with my friends all scattered to the winds.
I should probably point out that the American experiment thing, that's a term coined by Alexis de Tocqueville. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I rarely have to say it out loud, but that's somebody you learn about a whole lot if you end up studying this period. So if you end up really getting into this stuff and want to formally study it, that's a name you're going to end up learning.
Lawrence is in South Carolina, redefining bravery. We'll never be free until we end slavery.
That's actually not true. Lawrence doesn't go to South Carolina until after this. The war kind of lingers. Like, this battle ends, but the British are still there. Actually bringing the war to an end requires a lot of negotiation. There's going to be skirmishes that occur after this. Lawrence is going to be a victim of one of those. That's how he dies. But he actually takes part in all of this. But the war is supposed to end in this song, so I guess what can you do? You gotta move around the timeline a little bit. You gotta keep him down there so you can have him kick the bucket.
South Carolina, redefining bravery. We'll never be free until we end slavery.
And I've talked about the slavery thing to death, but like, I don't like that Hamilton says it with him. Because Hamilton was a do-nothing abolitionist. He may have been a little bit uncomfortable with slavery, but he didn't do much about it when he was most powerful to do so. It's not like I think he could have done a whole lot about it, but like, even in his own state, New York isn't going to abolish slavery until decades after Hamilton's death. Imagine what he could have done if he stuck around, if he didn't throw his life away like a fool. But also, I don't think he would have done much about it. He didn't seem that passionate about it the older he got. It seems like he just puts it on the back burner.
When we finally drive the British away, Lafayette is there waiting in Chesapeake Bay. How did we know that this plan would work? We had a spy on the inside. That's right. Hercules Mulligan. Spying on the British government. I take the measurements, information, and then I smuggle it. To my brother's revolutionary covenant. I'm running with the sons of liberty, and I am loving it.
So, Hercules Mulligan, when I started doing these videos, was the one that I knew the least about. There isn't a whole lot on the guy, but I have learned a little bit since then. One thing that I did know but didn't really attach to him, a lot of spies ended up utilizing their slaves in order to get information. And he was no different. Slave owner, just saying. This guy had a slave. I should emphasize that. Yeah, and what did the slaves really get out of it? Not really a whole lot.
See, that's what happens when you up against the Caribbeans. We in the shit now. Somebody's gotta shovel it. Hercules Mulligan. I need no introduction when you knock me down and get the fuck back up again.
Ooh, that is one of the coolest parts. I believe he ends up getting arrested at least once. I don't think anything ever ended up coming of it, but I'm pretty sure they ended up suspecting him at some point, and they just didn't end up getting him. So maybe that's what the "you knock me down, I get up again" thing, because like they weren't actually able to take him down, and now it's too late. Beep, 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 beep.
After a week of fighting, a young man in a red coat stands on a parapet.
lower our guns as he frantically waves their white handkerchief.
And just like that, it's over. We tend to our wounded. We count our dead.
Black and white soldiers wonder alike if this really means freedom.
Not yet.
I don't know if the not yet thing refers to perhaps like the long drawn out process of actually bringing the war to an end, because this, although it is the most decisive moment in the war and it's really going to get them to the negotiation table, they don't have like unconditional surrender. There are definitely going to be conditions here, and they're not going to get everything they want. There's going to be a British presence on the continent for a long time. We're going to get in another war with them not that long from now in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, there's a lot of baggage that's going to be left behind from the revolution. And to Lawrence's point, black and white soldiers wondering if this means freedom. Not for the black soldiers. It sucks. It really does. And if you wanted to find your freedom, you probably were better off siding with the British. So, sucks for you.
Renegotiate the terms of surrender. I see George Washington smile. We escort their men out of Yorktown. They stagger home single file.
Is it bad that when he says, I see George Washington smile, I have just imagine him grinning real big with his, like, totally screwed up teeth? Because, like, George Washington had some screwed up teeth. You hear the stuff about the wooden teeth, and that's bull, but, like, all I imagine is, like, the worst everything going on here. It's probably a huge exaggeration from what it really was, but yeah, he did not have the best teeth. That's an unnecessary tangent, but that's the only thing I can think when I think of George Washington smiling, because he didn't smile a lot, supposedly. Like he was kind of a stoic looking dude.
We escort their men out of Yorktown. They stagger home single file. Tens of thousands of people flood the streets. There are screams, church bells ringing. And as our fallen foes retreat, I hear the drinking song they're singing. The world turned upside down. The world turned upside down.
Let me pull up The World Turned Upside Down. And I like that it has, like, I like the drums that it has coming in, because that's kind of the sound you would expect from a song you would march to. So, hold on. So I found this recording from the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band. They seem to have recordings of a lot of, like, the old songs. And here's what it would have sounded like, more or less. So it's a very typical marching song. I don't know if the choice of song had any symbolic, I guess any sort of meaning beyond it being just another song to march to. Because when you have people, when you're trying to march a large group of people to keep pace, they use music. So that's why they would end up playing the song. Okay, you march to the music. It just keeps pace. We got to make time. We have a lot of people to move, and we can't expect you all to keep a good pace unless we all have one thing to go to, and that would be the song. All right, let's go back to the Hamilton stuff. I really like this one. And one thing that I love about the Hamilton musical is there's so many stories about war end when the war ends. And that's not even close to the biggest trial. Yeah, you can have people dying out in the field or whatever, fighting for something, but what are they fighting for? And in a lot of cases, people don't know what they're fighting for, or different people in the military disagree on what they're fighting for. And the fact that they have the whole second act dedicated to creating this very vague image and showing it manifest, maybe not completely as expected. I think that's what makes it such, and that's why I like the second act so much more, because that part of things is so much more underrated in media, and I'm just very excited to continue this one. This song, it's such a good build, and I remember seeing it live, and there's nothing like being there live. There's nothing like it. Everything comes together so perfectly. It's something else. Well, I'm gross. Sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next Hamilton one. I do other videos, though, just letting you guys know. I actually make videos that are not just Hamilton. I do videos every single day. So if any of you guys want to check out any of those, give me a chance. They're there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Later.